the solution consultants here at Professional Advantage, and happy to take you through today a short presentation to give you a taste and a feel for how to manage your expenses. So the agenda today should be relatively straightforward. I'm going to talk about some of the background of expense at work, just to give you an introduction of the software and its background and where it's come from. Obviously a product demonstration, probably about 10 minutes worth of just showing you the product so you can get the ease of use and how that works for end users. And we'll do a quick slide on the House of Commons, which is a very, I suppose, great case study in regards to the success of how expense at work can handle simple and complex approval regimes. And of course, we'll talk about how we can get you up and running inside of expense at work as quick and as easy as possible according to your needs. So I suppose the expense at work idea is to let's do things faster, better and automated. The idea of actually having to put things into spreadsheet to get things through the process, as everyone on the phone would know, on this webinar would know, is that it provides a lot of manual activities to try and tick those boxes of audit, control and compliance. So you want to eliminate the hassle, there's no doubt about that, because even though the activity of following up expenses, making sure receipts are there, making sure people have done it on the right time, that it's allocated to the correct budget and so on and so forth, these are meaningless tasks really that can be automated inside of expense at work. Also the paper proliferation, as far as to try and incorporate your policies and making sure tax and everything is calculated correctly in a manual environment, obviously makes it very difficult to follow up on past expense claims for audit control and review processes. Okay, so having things in Excel might seem fine and the way in which you do things today, but obviously there is a backward effect of that if you stay in that working environment. And I think there's obviously the no surprises. There's nothing worse than a project manager or department manager saying, oh, how come I got all these expenses hitting my February budget? Well, if we actually have a streamlined process for expenses to actually go through the system, then everyone is aware of where those expenses came from, who approved them, why they exist, and why they got allocated to certain budgets and activities. So that is also another reason why you would look at the expense at work. Everyone dreams of the paperless office. Once again, having receipts digitally captured in the solution. I can either have people email the receipts in or browse and attach them to a file. There's multiple ways in which we can do that. I'll show you that in the actual product presentation when I get to it. But the idea is that I should be able to click review receipts online without actually having to go to a file directory or ask for a copy of the receipt from someone that's got it in a magic box stored somewhere in the office. So yeah, we can obviously use the mobile device as well to capture receipts and have them electronically approved and captured. The idea though is that anybody anywhere should be able to access expenses, whether it's at the approval line of the expense process or whether it's actually at the expense capture data entry element. It shouldn't matter where anyone is or what time of day they wish to do it. We should be able to do that, especially with today's web access and the way in which people work these days. That's obviously a no-brainer as far as the benefit is concerned. There's no point in doing any of this though unless it's easy to use. It does rely on obviously pushing the expense capturing to the end user, which if you implement correctly, 9 times out of 10 is never a problem, because when it comes to expense reimbursement, people know that if they've got an easy way in which to get their money back, then they will do it. It's human nature. And also just making sure that we're capturing all of those expenses to the correct budget allocation. Okay, so that's also important. Bottom line, though, is that Expense at Work is used by over 30,000 users around the world, so it's a very robust solution that goes anywhere from a 25-user kind of site is the probably entry level for most users, up to the 1,000 plus, 10,000 plus, 5,000 plus kind of sites that are existing around the world. And the reason why these sites exist is that it is not a technical solution, and it is something that organisations own start to finish. So it's easy to configure. You can update your business rules so that they change with or whatever kind of corporate regulation that you might have, what kind of tax changes that might impact your business and the like. So it's important to have a solution that is easily configurable. There is a load of analysis in the system. If everyone on the phone is familiar with the SunSystems T codes or analysis dimensions, they are actually repeated or available in the Expense at Work, and they're actually compounded a bit. There's probably about 40 to 80 different areas in which we can analyse, so very, very comprehensive way in which that works. Workflow is very flexible, and that's proven by the way in which the House of Commons operate, and I'll talk about that when I get to the case study. And of course, even though I'm talking specifically to SunSystems customers today, as times change, we might need to integrate with payroll systems or other systems as the expense, I suppose, requirement expands the size of your organisation. So I'm going to quickly get over, that was the introduction. I should do just a little bit of housekeeping as well when we're in the webinar. Of course, I'm trying to stick to the 30-minute timeline here, respecting everyone's business hours time and probably lunch hour that I'm interrupting today. Please feel free to enter any questions that you have or chat inside of the webinar features there on the right-hand side, or depending on where you've got your connection to this session. I have got someone here supporting me, so you don't have to wait for a break as I'm going through this. Just feel free to type those questions in as and when you feel need. Okay. Moving over to, where am I? Okay. I just might have to refresh the screen here. Just let me go to the page, because I was chatting there and getting through it a little bit. So you'll see here, this is the kind of home screen of the application. You can see here that I've got, anytime I click on this tree on the left-hand side, it's going to take me to the individual menu. I'm in the full web browser here at the moment, and to be fair, this is actually a demonstration version that I've actually got hosted in Europe of all places. So performance is quite good as far as the application and how it works. I can see when I go into this create form, that is actually the terminology of the multiple capabilities that Expense at Work can actually achieve for you. So you can see in here that I can start, if I wanted to use this connected thinking of sometimes I might need a cash advance for my trip, so I can actually have that as a request inside of Expense at Work. Expenses, which I'm going to go to in a second, travel requests. I can even have a form here for annual leave and the like. And I have noticed that someone has asked me the question about credit cards, how I handle that, and of course we can also electronically upload credit card statements either in that bulk corporate credit card logic, so that if I have 20 credit cards in my business, then I can actually upload that one statement, but then email the details of those 20 individual credit cards to the individual employees so that they can actually interact with it. I wasn't going to show that today. I'm just specifically focusing on the Expense at Work, the expense logic of the solution. So going in, and this is a flat, starting from scratch kind of manual. This is the most manual way in which you would actually interact with expenses. So the first thing you'll see is that, especially if you're a person that uses expenses a lot, you'd like to put some category around your expenses so that you can review it later and report on it. So what I'm going to do here is say that this is a trip to Melbourne. So whenever I do a query on this, I can actually jump in there and actually look at it by the labels that I put on this specific expense that I'm doing. And as you'd expect, very simply, I'm going through here, filling out the types of expenses that I'm actually going to do. You'll see here that there is a list of expenses. Now for SunSystems customers, these would be labels, and in the background, in the admin function, we would map these line items to any specific chart of accounts analysis code combination that we need to, just so that the end user doesn't have to be inundated with that type of debits and credit requirement. That's all happening in the background. You can see here I've got a quick search function that if this expense type list is actually quite long and unwieldy, hopefully it's not, but still I have the ability to search in there and say, show me all of the entertainment type of line items, and of course you can see there that it filtered and just brought back that type of list for me. There are other kind of searches in there to group by and the like. Most people might be doing work on behalf of another department or another part of the business, or might be doing it for customers. So this is where you say where you want to charge it to. In this particular example, I'm just charging it to the individual department. You can see here too, when I hover over the little question marks that are around, you can see that there's little help notes. Now they're all user defined by how we set up expense at work for you. So those descriptions, as you can see here, enter the time of departure. Well, that's a label that I just put on any of those questions, and I can pretty much put that on any field, any column, as you see going along here. You will also see that there's a blue kind of filter and some things are white. Blue in expense at work is mandatory. Now I can make that colour a red colour or a green colour or what have you, but generally speaking, anything that has a colour on it versus just the grey or white means that it is mandatory field. So to venue, okay? And in this regards, I'm just putting in a very flat expense, okay? So you can see there that that's a very easy process. Now the only other thing that I wanted to add here, just for ease of use, and you'll see that it's, even though I put the new line on, I'm just going to put on a mobile phone charge that came in last week's bill, and also I want to charge that to marketing. And I just wanted to show you that launching the expenses, I just upload that. I've got a particular one on my file for Telstra, if I can find it, that I've already put cooked up earlier. Where did I put it? There it is up there, so you can see that I've scanned the attachment. I upload that, and it's as easy as that as far as putting the attachments in. Now, I can either do the attachments at the line level, okay, or I can put it up for the entire expense itself. Either way will actually work for you in that regards. Okay, just assign that. Didn't click that correctly. Okay, I might have double pushed that for some reason. Okay, so it's come back. And you can see that a little paperclip has come up. Once again, just for this trip. And put on the fact that it was $33 or something like that. Now, I can potentially save and validate that just to check if there's any business rules and things that come on. And just to show you how that kind of works, of course, I'm going to move that on purpose, and it should come back with the error, and there you go, error 2, total is a mandatory field. Thank you very much. I know that it's on row 2. I go straight to that, and I go to the $22 kind of logic, and then you can see that that error should clear away. So you can also see that I've got a general notes field, and this is for the entire expense itself. I can obviously make fields mandatory up here for the individual line items, but I might need to make a general comment about everything about this trip that goes to Melbourne. The response here is when I send this off to my boss, which I will do right now, submit that, you'll see a couple of things. This will show you the picture of the next person that's in the approval matrix and show you how that actually kicks along. So I'm going to log off and go in as that other user very quickly. And it's very simple for you to actually see what that form would look like for that user. And I'll actually launch the paperclip so you can see what that attachment looks like for that user as well. Okay, so I'm in this field. Obviously, I've logged in as a different user. Same kind of options available to me. This particular person has got a few more reporting options, so you'll see that that number has increased. But I'm just going to go into the to authorize component, and you can see those memo statements, how I labeled it, trip to Melbourne, down here on that last one. Okay, that's helping people group it into some type of logic, not just an expense that kind of sits there on its own. So I can come in here as Madeline, and I can review that. As you see, this is grayed out now, so I can't actually change it because that's the business rules that I've set up, but I can definitely review that, and I can launch the attachment if I want and actually see how that looks. And there you can see there's a Telstra bill popping up, and I can have a look at that as required. Okay. The thing that's also nice here is that notice how the notes came back as well, so I can understand a bit more information about that expense line. The other thing that is nice here is that I can either return all of this and put whatever kind of message because I'm not happy with this entire expense, or I might just do a partial one. So I might go in here and I go to the entertainment and I go partial return, and it says, did you see that warning message? I went there a bit quick. It says that there's another rule that's popped up that's telling me it is a mandatory field. So I come in here and I say, I thought we did this last month. Okay, so you're putting in a query to that individual line about the events entertainment, and you can do the partial return there. Now that means that one line item has gone back to David. I'm happy with his mobile, so I'm going to tick that and authorize it. Now there could be any kind of steps of how that workflow actually works and kicks in. In this example, it's going to finance. For speed and ease of today's session, I'm not going to go through that step because it's a very similar step. And of course, we've got total, I suppose, flexibility on how we actually design those workflows and what kind of triggers those events and the like. I've got a question here, just I'll quickly answer. Does it work on a tablet or phone? It actually works, because it's browser-based, in the tablet form, yes, and there is a specific app for in the phone. Now, at the moment, it's iTunes, so it's an App Store app at the moment, but the next part of the development path is to get Android, and then the third deployment will be Windows. So that's how that is. And I've actually got a screenshot of that. I'll show that when I go back to my presentation. So thanks very much for that question. So I just want to, one last thing, I'll just quickly show you what happened there for, what's my man, DB, wasn't it? Yeah, okay. Just to show you how that return actually looks for David. And then I'll go back to the slide and we'll finish up. And I think we're running just about on time, so that'll be good kind of process for this webinar. So you'll see here, David in progress, you click on the in progress, and you can see, I practiced this earlier, of course, that return is redlined. There's a red font. That's just a standard, warning kind of to the end user. I go into that item, and you can see quite quickly that when I click into the appropriate area, it will come up, and it will come up with a comment from that person about what we thought we did and stuff. So you might make a decision to delete it, validate it, or put whatever kind of extra reasoning and stuff. So it's very intuitive very easy to configure how that actually looks and the types of information that we need on that screen. So that's showing you the product very quickly. So looking at all of that, and I suppose considering that expenses obviously can be a lot more complicated and sophisticated than what I just showed, especially when it comes to the unique business rules that each company has. Regardless of that, you should still find a return on investment with expensive work of about 8 months. Okay, and the reason is that we're automating everything that is manual. That is probably the largest. I mean, time saving is obviously one, but there's also efficiencies as far as checking the amount of expenses that are going through an organisation and what those expenses are actually for. So it's a great review process, and it's a great opportunity to, I suppose, digitise your corporate policies inside your organisation. Just refreshing again of the look and feel there. Once again, you can see how this particular expense form is slightly different, has different information. On the right-hand side, that same screen, that's how it looks inside of the mobile interface. So you can quickly see here on the right-hand side that's the type of user interface that the mobile user actually has at their disposal. Okay, so that's quite nice and nifty to have. Just a quick, just clear that screen for a second. Just give me 1 second. There's all drawings. Okay, so the House of Commons in the UK. If you were ever in touch to read a newspaper about 6 or 8 years ago, huge problems with fraud and over expenditure inside of the House of Commons and no transparency and the like. So Expense at Work is the solution that actually solves that problem. They actually went to some quite interesting business requirements. That third one is the one that I like the most, and that is that they managed, we managed a business rule so that the next person that actually approves that original expense line item goes to a random person. Now, the benefit of that, and I'm sure that not everyone is as large as the House of Commons, but the benefit of that from a legal perspective is that there's no collusion at the expense line. Now, I mean, I know that that sounds a bit high level and whatever, but it is a really interesting statement when you start talking about separation of duties and who actually approves it. So that was a nice way that that actually looks as well. The other thing is that if you are at the type of business where you are working and you want intercompany charges and your expenses go across a lot of different areas inside of your business, and you still want to track or report on what you did as an individual, then we can report on that accordingly. And so that's what that redacted versions of expenses actually mean. So that there might have, because of the type of expense that I do inside of Expense at Work, it might have a totally different routing routine compared to other people that just have a one-to-one relationship with their manager and their expense line items. So very, very flexible in that regard. And of course, when we talk about scalability, they're doing monthly nearly 1 million receipts. So that simple attachment that I did of that Telstra bill for my phone bill, they're doing 1 million of those per month. So a very, very scalable and flexible solution in that regard. So just summarising those key features, of course we can do all the calculations when it comes to FBT, any type of allowances. You know, if I'm away for 2 days, then I get an hourly rate of X. Those kind of things can be put into the allowances for the expenses. That's quite a standard requirement. Kilometre calculations, you know, if I went 22 Ks, put in the I don't know what the per kilometre thing is at the moment, 60 cents or 74 cents or something. That is also an automated component of it. Today, normally talking about integrating with SunSystems, but it can integrate with other applications and payroll and what have you, depending on how you treat expenses. Some people might actually want to connect this to projects and project systems, or actually have it as a recharge to customers. So obviously we can link it up to your invoicing systems and the like as well. Important point to remember that we're always talking about configuration, not customization as well. That sounds at face value just a branded statement. However, the solution is totally managed by the company that deploys this, and they can actually change and configure the system to their heart's content, really, as far as that's concerned, which means that when something changes, you can adapt to it quickly and not have to rely on technical expertise to actually get that up and running. One more slide and then we're finishing, and I think I can open up for questions for that. But really, the simple things, here's the 4 simple points that I want you to go away and talk about with other members in either your department or CFO and the like about the benefits. And that is, let's just eliminate the hassle. Let's just get it out of the organisation. We don't need it. There's technology that can solve it. The solution can be accessed anywhere, web browsers, tablets, mobile phones and the like. Okay. The transparency and the no surprises statement. Remember how important that is. You know, you're not looking or searching through emails and searching for attachments in an email or somewhere and someone's put it on the folder directory. It's not any of that kind of confusion. It is actually there inside the application, visible for the people that need to see what they're allowed to see. Okay. And eliminate paper. That's a pretty brand statement. I still see paper in my daily life, but hopefully you saw there that attaching receipts inside the application should reduce that sort of manual hand pen signature kind of approval logic that might still be in existence in your organisation today. We can actually get rid of at least that step. Okay, so let me just see if I can go through some of these questions that we've got here. Someone's asked me here about hosting on MS Azure. Yes, no problem with that. We can actually do that. Integration with Sun6, also not a problem. Typically we use the transfer desk inside of Sun, and we actually provide the file upload in that. Now, if you've got the correct SunSystems scheduling license on the system, we can actually schedule the interface to be done in a batch process, either hourly. Typically, it's at the end of the day. You normally upload approved or finished transactions into the ledger. Okay, and we can scan receipts to obviously put them up in there as well. So I suppose it's over to the so they're the questions that were asked during the webinar. Please feel free to use my email address there that you can see to follow up in any other kind of respects. Of course, people would probably like to know price and estimates and things like that. Of course, I can help you through some of those. But I do want to leave you with another few kind of areas of what you should do next. If you've turned up to this webinar, there's obviously a need of some type, whether it's emerging or something that you need to do right now. Of course, we're here to help you with that decision process. So if we go from the left-hand side, there's some people in the webinar they've got detailed requirements and there's a budget in place to actually do such a project. Well, of course, we can confirm the scope with you, put a proposal forward so that you can actually confirm if this is the right way and how you want to implement and go forward. On the top there, you've got your foot in both camps. You kind of know that expenses are a problem, don't know really where to start. I can actually help you with some of that. I've actually got a questionnaire if you send me an email, I will send you that questionnaire that will actually get the ball rolling to let you go around the organisation and see if you can come up with your own business case and your own timeline, and to put some things together, and challenge the thought too, because some people don't always think that there's an expense, a way to solve their expense pain. So hopefully those questions will trigger some thought internally. And then there's probably, you're probably just potentially new to the organisation, or you're not the person with the authority to make such a decision to implement such a solution. Well, we're more than happy to provide another on-site presentation so that the powers that be can obviously see that live in action. Well, thank you, attendees of the webinar. I'm in the 1 minute over place of this webinar, so thank you very much for attending. Thank you very much for the questions as well. Hopefully I've answered those questions effectively for you. Once again, please take my email details down and feel free to put those questions to me at any time. Once again, thank you very much, and that is the end of our webinar today.